Hey, thank you for joining us, everyone. I'm Candid Frank Stanisci, and this is Candid Frank Live, where you'll find us airing our views here on the Spanglish World Network on Zingo TV channel 250. Please remember to download the Zingo TV app at the respective app stores for iOS and Android devices. While you download, make sure you rate and leave a comment. Both apps are absolutely free. Zingo TV is available on Google, Chromecast, Amazon Fire, Fire TV sticks, Roku sticks, and also in all smart TVs 2016 forward. Now, joining me on the show, of course, is the star of the show, Aaron William Freeland. Thank you for joining us, Aaron.
Hey, glad to be here, Frank. How have you been?
I've been better. Life has its challenges, and I I have to say that you can't predict the unpredictable, which is an oxymoron. Me being an oxymoron saying that, but the fact is, um, I get surprised every day how low people can go, and I watch it uh, in the world, and then watch it in my personal life, and I ask myself, I say, "This is weird. Like, is this something that the world's becoming? Are we at that point where um, it's acceptable to basically, I don't know, play with the truth? Um, it almost seems as though people lead with not telling the truth so that they can make their point by negotiating down to their side of the truth. It's a weird thing that I'm seeing, and now we're watching. I'm enthralled with seeing Kamala Harris and her speeches when she ran for president, and she did a bunch of stuff, and she took, Joe Biden to task. I took one look at her and I said, that woman's going to end up being the president. She's tough. Um, she's she puts an air of being soft spoken. And if you're wondering where the segue is there, you have a guy who is looking for the most powerful position in the world, who matter of factly is so dishonest and so predictably dishonest that moderators are prepared with a response denying what they're saying. And that seems to be the world we live in. And I don't know, Aaron, if him losing the election, God willing, yes, I'm taking sides on this one. If him losing the election sends a clear message to society that that kind of behavior isn't acceptable, then the reason why Republicans are supporting Kamala Harris is a good one. Your turn.
No, it does seem to me that you do start off with the extreme, and there's always the opportunity to walk it back with no real consequences. I'm just hoping that this time around, um, Lucy has pulled away the football one too many times, and Charlie Brown manages to stop himself before missing it. Is what I'm hoping for. So.
It is, and some may wonder. You can see that we have maple leafs. My logo there has a maple leaf in it. The one you have, the blue maple leaf, there behind you, and we are Canadian, and we historically and understandably, and without a doubt, we know more about the U.S. and what's going on in America than some people in the US, just as they know nothing about us, most of them. Um, how do, does that, in my opinion, what that does, it concerns me what happens in the US, because it really does impact on how we think, how we behave, and quite frankly, how we vote.
I've always been fond of saying, "Whither goeth America, so goeth Canada." Eventually,
Hopefully, that's
hopefully not in some cases,
Hopefully in all. Thank you very much.
Like following them into the war against terror on trumped up WMD charges is one thing. Adopting their style of politics is yet another that I would prefer that Canada not do. Um, but it behooves us to keep our eye on the sleeping animal to the south of us, in case they should decide to roll over and crush us in their sleep.
Yeah.
It's something that we need to keep our eyes on and obviously educate ourselves about, as well as the political situation here at home.
Yeah, well, everything's in the equation, Aaron. Everything becomes part of you and I do this. I do. I'm sorry. I don't mean to put. I don't mean to speak for you. I do this because I like sharing my opinion and I like the conversation of debating some things. We're not lockstep. Some might suggest we're both on the left side. I accept that, but I do know that when it comes to what's going on in the world, we need to be very concerned, and we need people to vote. Well, democracy is a gift that isn't guaranteed. Democracy is a gift that you have to earn. It's not something that's given to you. Um, and I think maybe sadly, I say sadly only because the long term good of democracies require people to appreciate and respect the benefit of being a democracy and not underestimating the evil that non-democratic countries can do.
And to a certain extent, the evil that some democratic countries can do as well. Uh,
Yes,
you know,
and that's
you
why the voting is important.
100%. Now, Frank and I aren't here to tell you who to vote for.
No, that's not what we're
Understand that is never our purpose. Our purpose here is to tell you to vote. We wouldn't dream of trying to influence your vote because that abrogates your right to free will and the ability to make up your own mind for yourself. So
please
when it
do
comes
the
to this
research.
sort of thing, we'll share our opinions on where we think everything is going. It is up to you to take the action necessary.
I will discuss issues and tell you where I stand on issues. I will tell you if there's a politician like Trump that I think is beneath being elected only because of his just his way. He's the guy that comes to a party that you have that makes you wonder, maybe I don't want to stay at this party because of the impact he has on the atmosphere. And I got to tell you, um, and I'll conclude our starting conversation here by saying that Kamala Harris is a strong woman. There is there are people who justifiably remember that if a woman was strong, the adjective used would be, and please don't take this the wrong way. If a woman was strong, she must be a bitch. And that's totally wrong. But there is in some cases we're seeing the freedom that women have, where in some cases some people think that if a woman is a bitch, that makes her strong. I think that's the other side of the pendulum. I prefer women who are strong and not calling them that name and accepting them just as being who they are. So my point is that when we start naming things, we're generalizing and we're also putting people in a box. Kamala Harris is an intelligent woman, a mixed race, intelligent woman who makes what she's doing and the success she's having important in the sense that who she is matters more than what she is. The message, not the messenger. And if you can get, I want politicians to whom the message is what matters. And by the message, I mean the message that says what you're going to do, not because I am this messenger, you should vote for me. In other words, who I am and I represent you folks over there. That I don't want. I like what she's saying when she says she'll be the president for all Americans. We know that Biden actually did that. And anybody who denies it, okay, fine. Just ask the people in the states that are Republican and the money they got to fix bridges and other things. They got almost more money than the other states did that were Democrat. That is unheard of, and that's somebody keeping their word. So let's move on to the other stuff. Your final word on that subject, or are you good?
Strong doesn't mean bitchy. Bitchy doesn't necessarily mean strong. It's the
Right.
content that's important, not the vessel.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We shouldn't reward nastiness. It doesn't
No.
matter which sex. Elks released national linebacker Woodley Apollon. What happened there, Aaron?
Well, he was acquired by the Elks via trade with the Ottawa Redblacks in February of 2023. That actually got him reunited with his twin brother and fellow former member of the Green and Gold, Wesley Apollon. In 2 seasons with Edmonton, he suited up for 17 games and recorded 5 special teams tackles. The Elks are currently on a bye week, but are going to be returning to action on Saturday, the 21st, when they take on the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Um, at this point, it just seems like a numbers game. So nothing else was released by the Elks. It doesn't appear to be injury, and it doesn't necessarily appear to be performance related. It may just be cap crunch at this time of the season because we're getting into the latter half of it, and money gets a little bit tighter.
Well, we'll sandwich this subject. The CFL stands up for truth and reconciliation. If you've been under a rock or something like that, you'll have not have noticed that every time there's a sporting event or any event that it includes the basic singing of the national anthem or the playing of the national anthem, it is previewed by the reconciliation statement talking about where we are and where this was. The CFL has been always been an organization that respects diversity, and this is just another section of that diversity and how they promote it.
Yeah, so there are going to be a lot of activities that are going to be going on here. A lot of what we're doing is in line with the Truth and Reconciliation Commission of Canada's calls to action, including commemoration, sports and reconciliation, and business and reconciliation, which are items numbers 83, 87, 88, and 92 of part of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission of Canada's calls to action list. Week 15, there will be games commemorating truth and reconciliation. Montreal at Calgary, then Edmonton at Winnipeg, Hamilton at BC, Ottawa at Saskatchewan, and September 28th, Montreal at Toronto. League wide, all dressed players will wear orange and white pregame jerseys prior to games commemorating truth and reconciliation during week 17. Clubs also have their own opportunities to uh, put their own spin on it and do their own work with regards to that.
In support of, I guess, just education and understanding. Let's move on to Sportsnet and a message. Trailblazing NHL reporter Christine Simpson draws praise, admiration as her and Sportsnet part ways. This is a long-term member of the on-air staff.
Yep, she's been with them for more than 20 years, which is huge. You know, since they went on the air in 1998, it has been excellent to see her there. She's always been a very level, responsible, and informative presenter that they've had. Um, I'm curious as to why it actually happened. I'm going to guess that we'll get more information in the coming days. Um, it's going to be strange to not see her on the air going forward, but I do wish her all the best wherever she ends up.
Yeah, we don't know why.
No.
Um, it could be anything. So I guess we won't speculate. We can speculate on this. A long-term member of the staff, the on-air staff, is now gone from Sportsnet.
Hmm.
You can be assured that the person that replaces her will be much younger.
Also, very big shoes to fill.
Very big
Oh.
shoes to fill. Let's go over the NHL and talk about Cole McWard. set to miss Young Stars Classic due to injury. That's a couple now of young players drafted by NHL teams getting a chance to show what they can do with the top of the top.
It's interesting. Abbotsford Canucks general manager Ryan Johnson, who also doubles as the Vancouver Canucks assistant GM, said that Cole is actually dealing with a minor nagging injury. On top of that, Jet Wu will also not be participating, but that's because Jet has actually received a promotion straight to main camp next week. They don't feel that McWard's injury is significant enough to uh, warrant actual time off on the LTIR, but it is more of a precautionary thing, just to try to see if they can get him over the hump for it.
It sounds like also it's one of those injuries where you have to sit on it for a bit and check out where it goes. In other
Yeah.
words, it hasn't improved. They're waiting to see if it'll improve or get worse, and then a decision will be made.
The other important thing to note here, Frank, is that a lot of junior camps are going on right now, and I don't know if you've seen any of their schedules, but it very frequently it's practice, scrimmage, half an hour off, practice, lunch, half an hour off, scrimmage, practice, and they're doing this 3 or 4 days in a row. And even if you're 18, 19, 20, that's very hard on a body.
Absolutely, it sure does define your endurance. Canucks must be patient with prospect Jonathan Lekermayaki.
Yep. So this is one of the individuals they had a lot of hope on. He was the reigning SHL Rookie of the Year. Made the transition to North America, and while he has a chance to start the year in the NHL, he's going to most likely be sent to the AHL before opening night. While expectations surrounding the Karamaki are high, starting the season with the Abbotsford Canucks is more than likely going to be what's best for him in the long run. You've seen players that get rushed. You've seen players that get put into the show too early, and they end
Yeah.
up burning out. It's a shame. I'd hate to see that happen with this individual here. He's had a very promising start to his hockey career. I'd hate to see it get derailed.
Yeah, you referred to the pace of junior camps, very hectic, very full. But still, when the season starts, the seasons aren't as taxing
Mhm.
as NHL seasons, and that's an additional thing that the players have to get used to. So they have to be treated in the context that they can't play a full. Very few of them can play a full NHL season. So you might as well make sure they're ready to play when they start, because even if they don't start when the gun goes off for the start of the season, there's still lots of time that they'll need to rest anyway. So it's counterintuitive to rush these kids. Calgary Flames first rounder is signed for a 1 year deal. Tell us about that.
So Jacob Pelletier was signed to a 1 year deal worth $800,000. He was taken at 26 by the Flames in 2019, but unfortunately, he's had a little bit of trouble sticking in the NHL. Over the last 2 seasons, he only played 37 NHL games, scoring 10 points. That's 3 goals and 7 assists. Now that he's 23 and eligible for waivers, it
Uh-oh.
could definitely be a make or break season for Pelletier as a Flame. If he's unable to stick in the NHL, he could very well get claimed by an opportunistic team. That being said, given the number of players that have left the Flames so far this season, this might be the absolute perfect time for him to pick up and stick with the big club.
Yeah, what we're talking about is that his status as an asset to the Calgary Flames will need to be protected if there's any possibility of him fitting in down the road. So it's that numbers game that every team has. They have candidates, with the Leafs, with Robertson, for example, last year. That was something that kept him out of the lineup. It wasn't the way he played that kept him out of the lineup. It was their fear of losing another asset they could lose if they freed that asset up or moved that asset. So this is he's at a tough year, 23, man. Now he's going to get a chance to play, and it's going to be really Fisher Cup bait. We know that'll, because you and I follow the Leafs so closely, we know that there's a lot of young players the Leafs let go to other teams and traded because they couldn't protect them anyway. So it was either lose them on the waiver wire or trade and try to get something back for them instead of getting nothing. And he right now is in that category. But you're 100% right. This could be his chance to prove that he belongs in the National Hockey League. The Edmonton Oilers are going to be short a few veterans, a couple, in fact, during training camp, Kane and Nurse.
Yeah, it hasn't been there hasn't been an official announcement yet, but apparently the main camp is actually set to open up Monday. But according to Tom Gazzola, both Evander Kane and Darnell Nurse are starting camp on the shelf due to injury. Now, it's not entirely surprising that Kane won't be ready for the start of camp, but Nurse not being ready is actually a recent development. Nurses has been on the ice for informal states and continues to heal up a lingering injury from the playoffs. The projection is that he'll be good to go probably during the second week of camp, but not for the first. The unfortunate thing is injuries that carry over from the playoffs, especially when the Oilers make a run as deep as they did, tend to stick with you a little bit longer. And, you know, while players do try to take the time to rehab, as you get closer to the start of the season, you start to ramp it up, and there's the possibility that you could re-injure yourself if you're not sufficiently careful.
With the subject of roster renovations in Ottawa, the Senators, why is 250 a magic number?
Well, I don't know if you watched a lot of Sens games. I know I did. Uh, it, I think one of the keys for Ottawa to become a bit more of a success this year is to limit the number of goals. Um, Specifically, teams that allow 250 or fewer goals have a much better chance of making the playoffs. I say this because of the 64 teams that have made the playoffs since the COVID bubble tournament, 51 of the 64 teams, or 80%, that have made the playoffs allowed 249 goals or less over the course of a season. 53 of the 63 teams, that's 84%, that missed the playoffs allowed 250 goals or more. So making sure that you have a good defense and making sure that you have scoring in place to take care of any situations where you might have to run a gun is hugely important.
The Where's Waldo Award for Maple Leaf roster placements has to go to Hakanpää.
This is one of those things that's been a long time coming. They finally managed to figure that out, I think. They had him in town earlier in the summer for with their performance staff for evaluation while he was going through his rehab. Not only with the signing of Robertson recently, but as well with Pacioretty signing a PTO with them. It does appear that Hakanpää's knee injury was at a point where they felt that he might be able to come back, which is why that they managed to sign him. With the signing of Robertson, at the start of the season, the Leafs will have $333 in available cap space. So we'll have to see what else get moves around because Max Pacioretty is in camp on a PTO as well.
Absolutely. Is that amount of money good for a Zamboni goaltender?
I mean, you know, they usually pay those guys in jerseys.
Yeah.
So
Well, $323 should be able to cover a goaltender that can beat the Leafs. Oh, geez, I said it. I can't believe I said
sir.
bad, bad boy, bad boy. That was really bad. Let's talk about the Marlies. They signed 5 players to HL contracts.
Yeah, this is big. A large part of their returning core is back, but they've also signed Tommy Miller, Robert Mastra Simone, Matteo Petronero, Zach Solo, and Ryan McCleary. So this is just them firming everything up. Both 25 years old, Miller and Petronero played significant minutes for the Marlies last season, but they'll have more competition on the blue line with the addition of Dakota Murmas, Nicholas Matanen, Cade Weber, and Philippe Myers. Petronero had 9 points in 40 games and 2 points in 3 playoff games last season. He was originally with the Growlers. Glad to see that those guys are back. We'll have to see how everything develops. I'll have reports starting in October about these guys.
PWHL Toronto team is now known as the Scepters,
which I think is kind of neat because they're playing at the old Royal Coliseum, now known as Coca-Cola Coliseum, which is right next to the Horse Palace. So Scepters just does seem to sort of fit. The
like
logo's awesome. Oh yeah,
and hopefully they'll have a little more depth this year. That when they lose one player, they won't end up out of the playoffs. They're having after having excellent control of the series. That was I still can't fathom that, and it's too bad, and I really feel bad for the team that played so well and put themselves in such a winning position, and losing one player cost them the series. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know, but it sure felt like that. It looked like that from the outside.
No, it most definitely did. And you know what? It'll be good to see them playing in the same arena as the Marlies. I know during the playoff run that they had, they actually packed the joint. It was absolutely fantastic to see. So, along with the Scepters, we have the Ottawa Charge, the New York Sirens, the Montreal Victoire, the Boston Fleet, and the Minnesota Frost.
And enjoy the season, folks. Hockey's on the horizon, and that means summer's gone. We already know that from the exhibition having been and left. Labor Day. No wearing sandals after Labor Day? I'll wear them anyway. Aaron,
With
thanks for
socks.
this, buddy. What socks?
Thanks a lot, Frank.
You're welcome, buddy. Thank you, Aaron. For Aaron William Freeland, I'm Candid Frank Stanisci. Thank you for watching Candid Frank Live, Aaron Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. This show can also be heard on the Spanglish World Radio Network. For Candid Frank Live, other news, entertainment, and sports programming we offer, check out spanglishworld.ca. Spanglish World. Watch it, hear it, read it, download it, and live it. Ciao for now. To my 4 babies, I miss you.